And we're back. This is another book series, something that I do not plan to be in a habit of, although I'm working through two books that just so happen to be that, and videos coming out at the same time. This one is on the greatest salesman in the world. Back is the same as the front, but this one is an interesting one. So, this book, very little, very short, all things considered, 110 pages or so. This book is called The Greatest Salesman in the World. So you can expect, well, I'll read the little thing. You can change your life with the priceless wisdom of 10 ancient scrolls handed down for thousands of years. So the idea is you can become the greatest salesman at what you sell by just following these 10 principles. However, I think this book is more a key to unlocking your sense of self in a deeper way. So, the first about 50 pages are a very, very well written short story. A little, not quite a novella. Short story is probably accurate. It's a short story and it's fiction. And the character at the end of that short story opens up these scrolls, which are the nonfiction part of the story, the things that you are supposed to internalize. There are 10 scrolls. Each scroll you're supposed to read 3 times a day, once when you awake, once after your midday meal, and once before bed. First two in silence, and the third one out loud. So you're reading it for 30 days, and you do that 3 times a day, which is 90 readings of a single chapter. First chapter is about 6 pages, or the first scroll, rather. And I plan to do a video on all of them and just my reflection for anyone who is curious. So this will take some time. It's not a quick task. It takes 300 days minimum to complete this. And as you can see by all my markings, this is completed. So I did scroll 1. And the first scroll is that I will form good habits and become their slaves. You can probably guess that I have a lot of this chapter memorized after reading it 90 times over 30 days. And that is the core message of the first part. I will form good habits and become their slave. So the idea is that all people are ultimately slave to the habits that they create. Now, a lot of people listening might understand that already and know that and say, well, yeah, I've read Atomic Habits. I get that. But it's important to note that this book is a bit older. I'm trying to see the first printing date. It's at least as old as 1968 and seems to be relatively timeless. It looks like it's a 1968 book from its original printing. I will form good habits and become their slave. So the idea there being that habits shape a person. If you have bad habits, then you're a slave to those. If you have good habits, then you're a slave to them. And creating good habits, as well as joyfully good habits, then make us want to do them more. So the habit it is creating, which is interesting because it's teaching you that this is an important skill. And it's not just teaching you through words, it's teaching you by reading the book correctly, which is a 3 times a day habit of reading. And it's 6 pages, so that's not nothing. If you're not an avid reader, that's 18 pages a day just of this. So 6 pages of the same content 3 times. So, I have to be reading 6 pages 3 times a day, 18 pages total, just to get through my commitment of doing this, let alone any other reading that I want to be doing. So, yeah, it teaches you the first lesson by making you do it, which I think is fantastic. I'm not going to move ahead and spoil the next ones. Today, at the time of recording, is day 1 of scroll 2 for me. I'm choosing not to look ahead. I've heard great things about this book, but I've actually not heard what all the scrolls are. So I'm choosing not to sneak ahead. I just finished reading the first reading of 90 for scroll 2, and I'm excited. I like it. I'm looking forward to reading it 89 more times over the coming month. But so far, this is pretty good. Obviously, I can't fully endorse it. I have not fully read it. I can fully endorse the novel at the start of it, the initial story that you go on with the character. I think it's actually a really, really, really good short story, and I would actually like to reread that story at some point. And so, if you're into fiction, I would actually say just go to a library, go to a bookstore, and pick that up real quick and maybe read it. Maybe that counts as stealing. Don't do that. Maybe go to a library. But it's really good. So I would absolutely recommend the first part of that story. But so far, the first scroll, that reading has been a really good experience for me. And I'm not going to lie and say I have all these amazing habits now, but this habit of reading is there. And this deeper understanding of how the author dives in with this scroll as to what it looks like to actually form good habits in the languaging around becoming a slave to them and forming good habits that bring you pleasure as well. Just a slightly different perspective, a little bit more philosophical perspective on habits, although not deeply philosophical, but more so than, you know, other discussions that are more clinical or research based on habits. It's just talking about accumulated knowledge here, and that is the importance of habits. So, really good first part. Um, I'll do the next 9 over the next 9 months. Probably do an overall review at the end of this, but so far I would say, yeah, it's a really good start to something that I'm anticipating quite a lot. So, if you are interested in the book, I would go pick it up. I mean, I can't really tell you to read along because I'm already a month ahead of anyone who's reading this, but you can watch this, wait 2 months, join me on the next one. But it's good. So, if you want to join along, feel free. At the very least, go ahead and read the short story at the start. So, I will form good habits and become their slaves is scroll 1, and yeah, I'm liking it. So, on to month 2.